Load the box is back. It feels good. It's been way too long. It kind of feels like, I've noticed this. Like, we kind of duck out. It feels like after the Vikings lose a terrible game,
Yeah.
and it's been completely coincidental. Like the games that or the times we've missed a show this year, it's been like, I think it was after the Chiefs game or something, and then after this Bears loss, and it feels like we're ducking talking about these embarrassing losses, but just happenstance. So we're back finally. Jordan, it's been like 3 weeks. How are you?
It. I'm good. I am very good. Short story, a little long. I do this. It's who I am as a person. I give excuses as to why we no showed, our devoted audience of like 35 people. And you guys deserve the explanation. Basically, I thought that I broke my PC because I built my PC with these sausage fingers. And so I thought that I had broken something and it was crashing anytime we tried to record, and I was very upset, and it caused some recording issues 2 weeks ago. And then last week there was just some scheduling stuff. Turns out Zoom and Windows 11, they don't like each other very much. So that was the issue. So we're back in a different recording platform in Discord, which I'm sure a lot of you can tell by the little green that's popping up around whoever's talking. We're back. It feels good to be back. And like you said, I'm going to say it's 89% technical life gets in the way stuff. And it's 11%. Like, could I have gotten on my computer at like probably 10:30 last week and tried to bang out an episode and get something posted? Probably. Did I have the drive to stay up until like midnight getting everything posted and doing everything just so I could talk about a team that just lost 12-10 to the Chicago Bears? No, I did not. I did not have the drive to do that. And so it was a little bit of
Completely
both.
understood.
But, life gets in the way. We're dads. We both have full-time jobs. This doesn't pay the bills yet. But, yeah, I think that quick segue here and to get back into the rhythm of it, we're not going to spend a ton of time on that Chicago game. It was 2 weeks ago. The Vikings have an upcoming game. We want to talk about the Vikings going to Vegas and playoff implications and matchups and all that fun stuff. But I do think we have to touch on that Chicago game, and I'm not going to go, into the key plays and things like that. The offense looked really bad. There were drops that turned into interceptions. Josh Dobbs was making really bad decisions. It felt like Kevin O'Connell wanted Josh Dobbs to be what Kirk Cousins was, and it kind of sucks because I had this whole take cooking that I wasn't ready to debut yet, but it was about how, Kirk Cousins was a classical music pianist, and he could play the piano and he could read sheet music well. And Josh Dobbs, everyone would probably think I would say jazz musician, but I was going to say Josh Dobbs was like a guy who knew how to play a couple notes on the guitar and could like play Wonderwall and sing a little bit, but like he wasn't anything serious. And then Kevin O'Connell was a really good songwriter, and together they were able to make really good music, and it was going to be cool. And then Josh Dobbs goes and does that, and Kevin O'Connell goes and calls that game, and it all goes out the window. Because now I think that Kevin O'Connell is trying to make Josh Dobbs fit in a hole that he just doesn't fit inside of. I just don't think he's that kind of three-step drop and deliver a perfect pass type of guy. So a frustrating loss. I limited my thoughts to under 2 minutes. I'm proud of myself. I'll pass it off to you. If you want to go on a 20-minute tirade, feel free to, but...
No, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say beyond what you said. I mean, especially because the game is kind of in the rear view at this point. For the team, of course, but also from my perspective, like, as a fan, if you will, I've kind of flushed it. Like, it is what it is. It happened. They also beat the 49ers when they shouldn't have. That happened too. So, like, these things happen throughout the season, games that you shouldn't win. I mean, the Packers shouldn't beat the Chiefs on Sunday, but here we are. And, that game was... Bears, we have to give them credit. They played really well defensively. They really limited when Dobbs did try to get out into the... or out of the pocket, get on the run a little bit, make some quick decisions that way. They sort of walled up the pocket so that it made it really difficult for him to move. And so whether or not that limited Kevin O'Connell's willingness to call more, boots and those kind of things, I'm not sure, but especially when I did see him try to move a little bit, it was very limited. He didn't look very comfortable in the pocket. His ability to move around was limited. So it was just in general a really bad performance kind of all around offensively. I don't think there's really anything we can say negatively about the defense. Like,
They gave up 12 points.
sure, they allowed that, 3rd and 10, 30-yard gain or whatever to DJ Moore to set up the game-winning field goal, but and like as all of the coaches and the players have said this week, we have to be better. We can't allow that to happen, but that can't be the thing that you fall back on. You can't expect your defense to allow 9 points and win a game. So, the ball is sort of in the offense's court at this point. The first two games of Dobbs' tenure here were, all things considered, pretty good offensively. They skidded a little bit in that second half of the New Orleans game. The Atlanta game, they had some, understandable, just not really knowing what to do, trying to make a hero play, fumbling the ball, stuff like that you kind of expect, sort of just incongruence in that first game. But the last two have been shaky. The Denver game which feels like a year ago.
It really
but
is.
The Denver game wasn't completely atrocious offensively, but there were definitely some ugly mistakes that led to that loss. Again, that was not a game you can put on the defense. So,
Yeah.
like I say, the ball's in the offense's court, and
Specifically,
I think,
I want to say the ball is in Kevin O'Connell's court because one, he runs the offense. So like I agree with you, the offense has to play better. But two, I think back-to-back weeks in prime time, Kevin O'Connell's offense took the field with a lead and under 3 minutes to go. And back-to-back weeks, they were super conservative and like run the ball, timeout, quick pass that doesn't go anywhere. Oh, incompletion, I think, in Denver. I don't remember exactly. Like you said, that game was 17 years ago. But just super conservative play calling, not stepping on teams' throats, not putting the game away. And, that was where a lot of the fan base's frustration, I think, was being channeled. If you're an offensive coach and your offense scores 10 points and your offense has a chance to win a game back-to-back weeks and you lose both those games, you're going to catch flack. It's the same reason why when, Zimmer's defenses didn't look good in the last couple of years and they were giving up game-winning drives or they were giving up like 30-plus points regularly, we all got mad and started calling for Mike Zimmer's head. So I think Kevin O'Connell has some self-scouting to do and has to, I don't want to say play with, reckless abandon, but you have to understand that now you're 500. Now you have to stack some wins with 5 to go or 4 to go. 5 to go. Yeah, with 5 to go, you have 6 wins. You're probably going to need 10. So you're going to have to go 4-1, which means I don't care if Josh Dobbs has 17 interceptions in a game. Either bench him and get somebody else in who you trust in those situations. You have to trust Josh Dobbs and just let him attack and let him go out there and execute your offense. And it was just a frustrating loss. I think it was a perfect bye week loss. Like we lost going into the bye. We all got a chance to just flush it, like you said. And now we can start talking about some things. And speaking of Josh Dobbs, he was officially named the starter today, which is kind of odd for Vikings fans to, be listening to like, this is officially the starter. Yeah, it's been like 6 years. And even 6 years ago when it was Case Keenum's team in 2017, like Zimmer would say, I don't know who the starter is, but we all knew it was Keenum. Like we all knew it was Keenum. We had like 13 wins. You're not benching Case Keenum at this point. So, and then before that, it was Teddy. So, I mean, like the Matt Castle, Teddy Bridgewater days is probably the last time this was a thing. And
a long time.
Very long time. But Kevin O'Connell announced that Josh Dobbs is the guy this week. Nick Mullins is the QB2. And Jaron Hall is the emergency QB. I say that to say, don't go on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, and say, let's see what Jaron Hall can do. I'm tired of watching Dobbs, because it's just not going to happen unless there are 2 injuries. So The team clearly is saying that Jaren Hall might be promising, but he's the emergency quarterback. We trust Nick Mullins more than we do Jaren Hall to come in and win a game for us. So take that as you will if you trust Kevin O'Connell and this coaching staff's, evaluation capabilities. What do you think of Dobbs getting the start? Are you in favor of it? Did you want to see Hall come in this week and kind of, I don't want to say punt on the season, but kind of say, if we win, that's cool, but we're kind of okay just finding out if Jaren Hall has anything, similar to what Washington did with Sam Howell late last season, where they said, whatever, F it, throw him in there, let's see if he's any good. And he actually ended up being decent. So what were you thinking?
Yeah, it's the question of the month. In some ways, I don't really have much of an opinion on this one because there's sort of three unknown commodities. Yes, we've seen enough of Josh Dobbs. We've seen a little bit of Nick Mullins, mostly in his time with San Francisco. And obviously with Hall, he's played 2 NFL series, so you have nothing really. And he was nothing special in preseason, so there's really not a whole lot to go off of with Jaren Hall. In an ideal world, it'd be like, you know what, let's throw the kid out there and he's ready to go. But I think the thing that you mentioned that is key to this, and sort of where I came back on, was I would have been okay with either Mullins or Dobbs. Not because I think that they are, going to challenge Kirk Cousins or somebody else to be the starting quarterback next year, or because I think they're, going to be, a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. But I think their experience, and in different ways, with Mullins, it's his knowledge of the offense. He's been here for 2 years. He's obviously very well liked. He was re-signed in the offseason. They really trust him. He's not going to wow you with anything, but he's going to be, sort of diet Kirk Cousins. And on the other side, Dobbs gives you an electricity that sort of can put you over the top. We've seen that he can both put you over the top and he can also sink the ship. And so you're playing with fire a little bit with him. But I think the thing that sort of kind of sold me on the idea that, okay, I'm okay with Josh Dobbs starting again is it's pretty clear the team, has gotten behind him sort of these last 4 weeks. And I don't think football players turn on their teammates as quickly as the fan base does. 3 weeks ago, Josh Dobbs was the savior, and over the last week and a half, he's been, cuttable. Everybody wants him gone. Everybody doesn't want to see him play again. And I think his teammates still have that level of confidence in him, and they've seen what he can do with the football. And so, to your point earlier, talking about the ball being in Kevin O'Connell's court, it was very well timed that the bye came when it did, because as O'Connell talked about today, the self-scouting was very good, very necessary. It allowed to show him what Dobbs has done well. And he even said, specifically, there are things that I need to point out to him that I know he can improve on. But then he also talked about the fact that, he has to be better and that he has to call a game that puts Josh in positions to succeed. And so, obviously, without him getting too much into detail on that, I would like to think that let's simplify the game for Josh. Let's give him, kind of what worked in Atlanta, 2 reads and then just take off, dude. And give him the ability to make plays with his legs. I mean, some of his best plays as a Viking have been sort of on the run, off script. That touchdown to Josh Oliver. There was the throw to TJ Hawkinson against the Saints. Obviously, his rushing touchdowns, that ridiculous 4th and 7 scramble. So there's been, and obviously that's not really like a play call, these scramble drills. That's not really a play call, but I think to something that Brian Flores talks about often is it's players, not plays. And so you put Dobbs in a position to make plays with the key players on his offense, with Jefferson, who is back this week, and with Hawkinson and Addison, and give him the ability to make plays with those guys. So maybe just putting them in the right positions doesn't even necessarily have to be a brilliant play call. It's just if Josh feels heat, get him on the run, do the scramble drill. And so all that being said, I'm definitely okay with the decision. I think also the last thing I'll say on this is where the Hall stuff just loses steam for me is like you're saying, it sort of would feel like a little bit of a punt on the season or a sort of like, if we get in, we get in. That's great. But I don't think that sort of approach, if that was sniffed out at all by the players on the team, would go for it.
Right.
Like I think they're like, wait, so this Dobbs guy's giving us a little electricity. He had a bad game and a half. We're quitting on him. We want to keep winning, and I think this team, whether it's warranted or not, has a high level of confidence in themselves, and so I don't know. You play to win the game. You don't play for the next season. So
Agreed.
That's kind of where I'm at. I'm okay with the Dobbs thing. I'd be okay if he does struggle. I'd be okay with seeing Mullins too. Let's just be frank though. None of these options are great.
No, well,
I mean, just look at
the Bengals. Joe Burrow goes down, and yeah, Jake Browning had a really good Monday night, and that's amazing. And for my Cincinnati Bengals fans, I hope he does well. Not next week, but I hope he does well in 4 of the remaining 5 games that you have. The problem that I have is Jake Browning is not going to Kansas City and winning. He probably wouldn't go to Buffalo and win, but that's not really a problem. He's not going to hang.
Well, it's not even that good.
No, they're not. But he's not going to, I don't think he can take you into Miami and win you a game and a shootout against that offense. No. If your quarterback goes down, and we say this at the beginning of every season, where we kind of talk and we say, if Kirk Cousins goes down, it's the season's done. And it just sucked because the Vikings were riding like a wave of momentum, it felt like, when Cousins went down. And then we got Dobbs and we won 2 more games. And it was like, oh, so we can't trade Daniil Hunter for a second-round pick because we're actually contending for the playoff, maybe the division at that point. And it just mucked up the thing. But your starting quarterback went down, man. Your team isn't going to be very good. And I preach it on this show all the time. If the number 1 QB goes down for a prolonged amount of time, your season's probably over. If your number 1 QB goes down for a month, you ask the backup to go 2-2, and then your QB comes back and rides you into the postseason or whatever, takes you the rest of the way. But Cousins isn't coming this year. We have to accept that, and we have to accept that, look, man, Vikings football might be a little tough to watch. And look, if we lose 2 or 3 games straight, there's a good chance I think you do see Jalen Hall against Green Bay and Detroit at the end of the season. But I think that Josh Dobbs does give them the best chance to win right now this second. I think, like you said, he's played enough NFL games where it's and he's been around long enough that it's okay, he gets it. He is a smart guy. He is a really good athlete. You just have to, one, not false the ball, which I'm not saying Kevin O'Connell did, but I did put out an X tweet, whatever, towards the beginning of that game where I was like, is this Kevin O'Connell practicing to false feed Justin Jefferson when he gets back? Because it felt like every play call was a designed quick pass to Jordan Addison, and I didn't get it. I didn't get why we were doing that. I understand Addison is a weapon, but we were winning without really using him that much, and we were using running backs and tight ends, and I don't know why we didn't do that, but I have a lot of questions about that game and the play calling and all of that. But at the end of the day, Josh Dobbs gives you the best chance to win. Jefferson is now back, which we will get into in just 1 second. Let Dobbs cook. Is that acceptable to say? Is that?
I think in some ways, just given the style of play, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, Dobbs kind of does cook a little bit with the way that he plays. He's
take the playbook away from him. So
he's sort of a chef in that way.
Don't let him know the plays, and just send him out there like it was against Atlanta, and be like, hey, We'd play 15. These are your options. You can always run. And let him go just make some hopeful magic happen and hope that Brian Flores just is dominant with the defensive play calling. I feel like, and we do not have this on the agenda, nor do we have the time to do it. So the response must be brief, but I feel like if I'm Brian Flores, I'm going to get head coaching offers. And unless New England is one of those places that wants to hire me because he's, cut his teeth there. Is that how this expression goes?
I think that's a phrase. Yep.
Yes. Because that's where he got like his beginnings. He's a Belichick guy. If they want to bring him, so they still have like that Belichick in the building, but they get like a younger, like fresh look on things, whatever. Unless it's New England, I think, why would I leave this situation to go to Carolina, where they just fired a coach after 10 games? Like, why would I leave this situation and go to insult whatever vacancy there is? Unless it's New England, where you could kind of say is his home. I don't know why he would want to leave this. So I'm hoping that he stays next. This is kind of like shucks, if Cousins didn't get hurt, think of what could have been. And then next year can be like, we re-sign Cousins and we draft a quarterback, or we just draft a quarterback and the offense can go a little bit better than what it is right now. What do you think? If you're Brian Flores right now, is there any job? I can't think of any off the top of my head, but do you think that we might get a second year B-Flow?
I mean, I haven't thought about like all the potential availabilities. Las Vegas might, but they might hire Antonio Pierce,
who is not Alec Pierce. He plays for the Colts.
Not Alec Pierce. They look slightly different. One played linebacker. One plays wide receiver.
That was a little bit different age. Joke. That was a very good joke.
You mentioned Carolina. There's, it feels like Arizona could be, but they just got a new guy. They're not going to fire him, I don't think. Yeah. They kind of planned to suck anyways, so being bad is not that surprising. The one sort of wild card here could be Pittsburgh. Not because Mike. Well, hear me out. Not because Mike Tomlin necessarily deserves to be fired. He's never had a losing season. All those things. But I saw something earlier today where it was like he hasn't won a playoff game in like a decade or something. And, we sort of just assume that Mike Tomlin's job is safe. And the Steelers never fired their coaches. They've had like 3 coaches ever. But, the sort of wild card there is if the Steelers continue to just kind of nosedive, Mitch Trubisky's going to play for a week or two here. Who knows how that could go. Do you see Mike Tomlin getting let go and then you bring in a familiar face who was there last year? And you can't turn down a Steelers job.
No, you can't.
If Brian Flores got offered the Steelers job, you got to take it. But I think this was to a point that you made maybe earlier in the season. Maybe it was somebody else. But, he's already had one job. And it didn't end well, whether it was his fault or not. Obviously the lawsuit and everything. But you don't get many more opportunities to be a head coach. Josh McDaniels is never going to get hired again. It's just never going to happen.
He will.
Crashed and burned twice. Oh, if he does, God bless that franchise.
He's going to take somebody to he's going to take some mediocre quarterback. They're going to have a decent, solid wild card season like they did in New England. And one of these billionaires is dumb enough to do it again. And he's going to get 32 chances because these guys are dumb. And for some reason, they think he's like a good coach, even though he's had 2 chances and he's pooped the bed on both of them. Pretty bad. Like, not just bad. Like, oh, you're not a very, it's just not, you're not built for, like, he's just bad at it. Like, he's not a people person.
He hasn't finished the second season either time, correct? Like, it's been brutal. But kind of to my point, you're not going to get too many opportunities to be a head coach. And so if you don't succeed at the second opportunity, that might be it. And so for him, like you said, is he going to go take a job with the Panthers, who just won 2 games and, aren't sure if Bryce Young is the guy?
And they're not going to give you the time to build what you want to build. They're going to say, no, we want to win 11 games next season. We did everything. We drafted Bryce Young and we signed Adam Thielen. This team and Miles Sanders, this is an unstoppable offense. And it's not. It's a terrible offense. Like, I don't know. That's
the only way I see Flores leaving is if he gets a job like Pittsburgh or Buffalo, maybe. I could, depending on how things go with Sean McDermott, they've underperformed. If they miss the playoffs, could he potentially be gone?
Yeah.
They might want to turn to an offensive coach. So that's a whole nother thing. We could probably do a whole episode on Brian Flores. And anyway, I think he probably stays unless he gets that, that creme de la creme opportunity, and you just can't pass it up.
And so. I think that's comforting almost to me to think, and that's thinking so far ahead, and it really is. Like, I want him, like, if he wants to go to Carolina, like, I want Brian Flores to be happy. He has done nothing to wrong me, and I always viewed this as a 1-year rental of a defensive coordinator. With how well the defense has just flipped. I mean, we were talking about a top 16 finish would be fine due to the limited personnel, and they're like top 7, man, and they went 2 weeks without giving up a touchdown until like the end of the game. Oh, they gave up like 1 touchdown in 2 weeks.
Is
that what it was?
2 weeks.
Yeah, 1 touchdown in 2 weeks.
Insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Hey, Justin Jefferson's back. We should probably touch on that.
That's cool.
Return of the GOAT. I don't know if I'm excited about it or not. I am slowly turning sour on Justin Jefferson, I think. Not actually, but seeing your team... What?
Share. Talk about it. Let's go.
Seeing your team...
I want to hear what wild take you've got here.
It's not a wild take, but when you rip off like 6 wins without Justin Jefferson, or however 5 wins, whatever it was without him... I would listen to trade offers before I made him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. They would. I'm not saying we say, hey, anybody got any 2nd-round picks available? I'm not saying you use him and a 1st-round pick to move up like Carolina did with DJ Moore. I think Justin Jefferson alone gets you a 1st-round pick and then maybe a handful of day 2 picks. He moves you into the top 10 and you keep your 1st-round pick. Like, I think he is a very valuable commodity and has to be treated as such. I'm excited that he's going to be playing. I'm excited that our offense is at full strength, if you want to call it that. But life went on without Kirk Cousins. Life went on without Justin Jefferson. I think guys that play decently well for us, we assume are invaluable, irreplaceable. You can't play football without them. And it's not that way. And so I'm very intrigued how this contract negotiation is going to play out. It's probably going to be Justin Jefferson signs and is a Viking for the next 6 seasons, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, save the last 5 quarters. I think Kevin O'Connell did a really good job with his offensive play calling and coaching from the moment Jefferson got hurt until, let's just say, the end of that Denver game. And I think that's sort of where, he couldn't rely on the, Kurt can just chuck it up to Jefferson. He's down there somewhere. You know how that phrase goes.
Yeah.
And he, you can't just rely on Justin Jefferson eating double teams, which frequently happened. And so I think he had to dig into his bag a little bit more. He had to get a little more creative. He had to be a little bit more multiple, if you will, in his alignments, in his personnel groupings, in his simulation of the run game with jet sweeps and those kind of things. And I think he did a really good job of that, especially, in that San Francisco game was remarkable. He sort of pulled out all the stops for that game. The Green Bay game was masterful. And then, I think for about 6 quarters of those Atlanta, New Orleans games were pretty good too. And so you look at the whole body of work since Jefferson went out. I think O'Connell did a really good job for the most of it. And now sort of the onus is, like we were saying earlier, there needs to be a deep self-scouting, look at what needs to be improved from the quarterback position, but also, as O'Connell mentioned, like there were a lot of, as he called it, like negative grades on the grade sheets from the last game or two, on the whole offense. You know, I think after every game they go through and they grade each player. And so there sort of has to be a whole level of introspection, obviously starting with the coach and the play caller. And that has to continue. It can't continue to, it can't just revert back to, F it, Jefferson's down there somewhere. Let's just chuck it to him. Because although he's going to make 5 of those plays for you a game, that's not sustainable offense. And so I'm really, kind of with this whole season, it's been wild and weird and injuries and different detours. I've been excited at each and every junction because it's been sort of, okay, Jefferson's out. What are we going to do with the offense? What's going to happen? Oh, crap, Kirk is gone. I'm really curious to see what Jaren Hall and then Josh Dobbs can do. Oh, okay, now the offense has really struggled. I'm excited to see what now happens after you insert the best receiver in the league into it, and potentially how that opens things up more for Addison, for Hawkinson. So it's things that I'm just excited to see sort of the progression of what now happens as we finish this last stretch. And one thing I will mention that is not to throw cold water on the Jefferson return, but I don't think that the Vikings fans should expect, Justin Jefferson to have 150 yards a game, partly because Josh Dobbs is not Kirk Cousins, but also partly because Josh Dobbs loves throwing to tight ends. And I think on the last broadcast, it was either Aikman or Buck mentioned that Dobbs had thrown to tight ends more than any other quarterback in the league this year. So he likes tight ends. Part of that's probably lack of confidence in his downfield throwing, whatever. He likes the safe throws to the tight ends. And we got a really good one. And so I wouldn't expect, us to just see a bunch of Justin Jefferson. Hopefully it opens up things more for TJ Hawkinson and all that. But
Yeah.
don't expect Justin Jefferson to be, what we expect or what we've seen for the first 3.5 years of his career.
What I think is
just because of quarterbacks, but
what I think is fair to expect though is Jefferson. I would like to see him get over 100. I think that he
absolutely.
will be. Yeah. I think he will be able. One, I think O'Connell's main focus in the beginning of this upcoming game, which we'll start walking our way into the Vegas thing very quickly. I would be remiss if we didn't mention this. It's not throwing you under the bus, not throwing myself under the bus. Harrison Phillips nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. The NFL calls it the most prestigious honor. Obviously, you win a bunch of Walter Payton Man of the Years, you don't get into the Hall of Fame for being a good person, like in terms of football stats and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. I think that is a tremendous thing to be acknowledged for your work in the community, and I would be angry with myself if we did not at least mention that. We're not going to go in depth and critique his charity and his charitable contributions and what he does, but Harrison Phillips, good dude. Playing good ball this season. He's all right. Really good dude off the field. That's awesome. Back to on the field stuff and walking our way into go ahead.
One just quick thing on the Man of the Year thing. Last year, if you guys remember, it was Adam Thielen who was nominated. Part of me last year thought it was going to be Phillips. But Thielen got the nod, and I'll just make sure this is clear too. Every team announces their nominee. So I think it was 2 years ago, I think Dak Prescott won the whole award for the whole NFL. So each team announces that they get one person nominated, and then at the end of the year, at the awards ceremony or NFL honors or whatever they call it, the winner gets announced. So this doesn't mean that Harrison Phillips won an award yet, but he is the Vikings nominee for said prestigious charity award. So
I have not looked into it, but I think it's like the team. I don't even, does the team announce, like, does the team pick their player or does the league pick it? Because, like, the way that O'Connell was talking about it, it sounds like there's 32, like, miniature awards, tiny trophies that you get for, like, being the most charitable person on your team. And then they have, like, the big one that represents the entire league. I think Andrew Whitworth won it a few years ago. Dak Prescott's won it. I feel like it's usually
Eli Manning won it.
Yeah, it's usually a guy from a big market, which, I get it. But, like, are you going to go with the QB for the Cowboys? Oh, Kyle Rudolph on the back nine of his career, catching 60 balls for 370 yards. So I think that we know who's going to win. And either way, great dudes, great award, love it. Back to, like, on the field stuff. I expect to see, I not expect, but I want to see Jefferson get fed kind of early. I want to see, and I think what O'Connell is going to do to start this game, he's going to try and get Dobbs comfortable. Dobbs is coming off the worst game of his life, I would argue. I mean, like, that's just, it was no good. He got no help from his wide receivers. And then, like, that deep ball where he had Addison going wide open in Chicago, if he just throws that ball like he's capable of. He's an NFL quarterback. Every NFL quarterback is capable of making that easy of a pitch and catch. He has, like, the yips almost at that point because he's getting pressured, he's getting hit, and he's just off. And his receivers have been tipping passes up and getting intercepted. So I think O'Connell's first goal on the first drive is get Josh Dobbs comfortable, remind him he's an NFL quarterback, remind him, hey, we traded kind of nothing, but kind of something to get you. We wanted you, we sought you out, and we brought you in because we thought you could win us games. And so I expect to see Jefferson towards the end of the game stout, and it's not going to be 75 yards down the field. Josh Dobbs is a limited thrower, but a little bit of deeper crossing routes, a little bit of some post actions, some comebacks, and one thing that's going to help Josh Dobbs out, because he does struggle with elite ball placement. I think Jefferson is just, I think you have to give the nod to Tyreek because of how fast he is at creating separation and being so wide open that it's mind-boggling. And because Tyreek is so fast, I think he gets that nod. Jefferson is the best route runner in the NFL. He's going to put grown men into blenders, leave their jock straps out on the field because he runs such a clean and crisp route that it doesn't matter where Josh Dobbs throws the ball. As long as it's in the window, Jefferson should come down with it and should make some explosive plays happen. So I have high hopes, but I agree with you. Dobbs is not Kirk Cousins. But I'll make that my first, what am I excited to watch? And it's obviously, it's the return of JJ. And also, I won't even say that. I'll say it is the Josh Dobbs bounce back. Of opportunity for a bounce back. What are you looking forward to in this Vegas game? They are also coming off a bye, so they also got an extra week to rest up, get healthy. What's on your mind?
Yeah, like, obviously the Jefferson piece, how him and Dobbs work together, how the offense responds. Something that team has sort of hung their hat on this season has been the ability to respond. 0-3 to 1-4 to 6-4. There's just this ability to respond to adversity, and now they sort of hit that third wave of adversity with these two back-to-back sort of crushing losses, lose 2 games by a combined 3 points, and it's I expect a very solid response. It's hard to expect completely clean football because just like we've said, the offense isn't the same without their quarterback. The turnovers have been too many with Dobbs. Hopefully that can clean up a little bit, not have multiple in a game kind of thing. But, something that I expect, and I'm not going to talk too much about this because I'm going to let you talk about the defense game ball, but I expect the Brian Flores unit to suffocate Aiden O'Connell. He's a rookie quarterback. In the 4 games that he has started, the last 4 games, they only averaged 19 points a game, and that was coming, included was the first game that they had in that stretch. They scored 30. So do the math on that. They're averaging about 14 in the last 3. So it's not an impressive offense. It's literally only Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. Adams has 3.5 times as many targets as the next closest guy. Jacobs has, goodness, like 7 times as many rushing yards as the next closest guy. Like, it's not even close in terms of touches and ball distribution. And so, although they have some players that you would think could hurt you, Hunter Renfrow, Michael Mayer, I believe, the tight end, they're just not an offense that scares me. And Aiden O'Connell, like, he's played fine, but he's like been identical to what Jimmy Garoppolo was. Like, you look at their stat lines for this season, obviously prorating based on games played and stuff, but they're about identical. Like, I think they were 3-3 with Garoppolo. They're 2-3 with O'Connell. They have about the exact same quarterback rating, completion percentage, turnovers. So it's not a scary offense. I expect just continued suffocation of sort of a turned over coaching staff as well now, and a rookie quarterback. And, they're sort of in that same, like, Indianapolis Colts from last year's thing where, like, we caught them at the end of the season. They had an interim head coach. Kind of thought we might run into one of those, like, oh crap, it's the interim head coach that, provides a spark, and that could still happen. They've had a little bit more mojo since they got McDaniels out of there, but it's not an operation that should really cause Flores and company too much problem.
My concern with the defense, and maybe this will factor into my game ball and my final predictions and everything, but my concern with the defense is, we saw Philadelphia kind of run the ball at will, and since Josh McDaniels has left the building and Antonio Pierce, who is not Alec Pierce, since he took over coaching, they've kind of taken this, like, we might not be very good, but we're going to punch you in the damn mouth approach to football, which I can respect. But they very much want to beat you up, run the ball, have a couple of splash plays from, Jacoby Myers or Devontae Adams, like, whoever it is, and then, see what happens at the end of the game. It's kind of like they want to drag you down, get into a scrum with you, and then see who ends up standing up first. And I'm worried that the Vikings' run defense could be, primed as we focus on not letting Devontae Adams get wide open behind the defense. We could get, exposed a little bit, if you want to call it that. And the run defense could falter just a hair. Now, granted, the Vikings' run defense has been pretty good to great since that Philly game. But, maybe it's because it was in prime time and it was early in the season, and I woke with an Eagles fan who, really just lets me know how good the Eagles are. That's
how good they looking after last week.
Yeah, no, not very. He missed yesterday. He missed Monday at work, and today he came up and he said, he was like, you're feeling good after Sunday. And I was like, yeah, I was a San Francisco fan on Sunday. I won't be ashamed to admit that. And he had to say something because as soon as I saw him, I started doing the fly Eagles fly and, really letting them have it. So, I want to see the Vikings defense obviously be stout against the run, make Aiden O'Connell be the reason that you lose this game, make him make clutch throws and big time throws. And, who knows, maybe Byron Murphy Jr. or Mekhi Blackman, maybe Andrew Booth Jr. Who knows who's going to be playing defensive back for us. Maybe Josh Metellus comes up with a pick. Somebody come up with a turnover. And I'm going to say this much, and I'm going to start getting into my score prediction and game ball. I'm going to save my game ball because it's a spicy one, and it has to, for reasons, go after your game ball. My score prediction, my final prediction, whatever you want to call it, I'm going with the Vikings winning this one 23-20. And very specifically, the Vikings are going to have the ball with 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes to go around midfield, and they're not going to run pass. They're going to come out on first down, and they're going to run the ball. And then on second down, they're going to throw for a first down in the game. Josh Dobbs victory formation. Big W's.
I like that.
in Vegas. And
I
so I'll
like
do my
that.
game ball after you, but that's kind of how I envision
Okay.
this one going. I'll pass it off to you to get yells in.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Just quick crunching some numbers while you were doing that. That those comments on the running game, they have improved a little bit the last 4 weeks or so, ever since Josh McDaniels left. Running the ball, amazing. They haven't been like world beaters, but they're better than they were for the season. They're only averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Josh Jacobs is only at 3.5 yards a carry. So as a collective, the running game is not as good as you would like it to be, as you would think when you have number 8 back there for the Raiders. But I think your point is well taken in that could be an area of exposure. On the other side of the ball, for me, a big key is going to be stopping Max Crosby. He sort of plays like just a bat out of hell and is relentless, and he's one of my favorite NFL players to watch, honestly. Just his ability to get to the quarterback, and he's crazy, and he's a really good dude too. Like, he's been through a lot of crap in his life, and he's a really good dude. And he's just a wild player, and tons of tattoos and crazy personality, and fun to watch. But he's a fantastic pass rusher. So wherever he's lined up, they're going to have to account for him. And that's going to be big, because I thought the Vikings offensive line showed some cracks against Chicago. Not a ton of sacks or anything, but the performance wasn't as good as it has been. For me, score prediction is actually quite similar. 23-16 Vikings. I see a lot of field goals again from the Brian Flores defense, forcing field goals. I don't think the Raiders are just going to be stuck in mud all day, but they're going to make some long field goals because they have an awesome field goal kicker. He used to play for the Vikings. He shall remain nameless. And I think it's going to be one of those games where the Vikings will get that one extra touchdown. I don't necessarily, see it as a back and forth, we score at the end sort of thing, but Dobbs is going to have to make a few extra plays. And I think he and the offense will. My game ball is pretty obvious. Number 18 is playing again. If you haven't heard, we've talked about him a little bit. He's going to get the game ball. I did throw a little cold water on the whole Jefferson thing because of, Dobbs loves Hawkinson and loves tight ends. Jefferson's going to get in the end zone, and he'll get over 100 yards. I'll leave it at that. If any more than that is going to be gravy at this point. Obviously, I think we can assume he's fully healthy, so I don't think there's going to be a pitch count or anything on his snaps, but I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to be, if not he's going to be one of the difference makers, if not the difference maker.
Yeah, I think that is, I felt so stupid because you text me and you were like, hey, I've got the offense this week. Pretty obvious who I'm going with. And I was like, I remember reading it and I was like, why the heck is it obvious? Like, what? And I was like, oh, yeah, you bought like an Alex Madison hoodie to support his charity, which everyone should go do, by the way. But I was like, I was like, oh, is it Madison? Because like bounce what? And then I was like, oh my God, Justin Jefferson's playing this week. I'm the biggest idiot on the face of the planet. You could really tell how checked out I was from the Vikings on the bye week. It was like 20 degrees in Ohio over the bye week most of the time, and I was basically just sitting on a beach, like I was sitting outside shirtless, just enjoying not having to worry about how many interceptions Josh Dobbs would throw. I've done a lot of dragging Josh Dobbs through the name through the mud tonight, and I do want to specify that I still like him. I have his jersey sitting in my Prius right now. Yeah, it came this morning.
You got a jersey? Oh, let's go.
Yeah. Now here's the problem. I am cheap and buy China jerseys, and now that's officially in the atmosphere that I buy China jerseys. So I bought the jersey after the Atlanta game when Josh Dobbs was the future. And then it showed up and I saw it on my front porch this morning and I said, oh no, it's the Dobbs jersey. And I was like, I don't even want it now. But China's not going to take it back. It's mine forever. So that's an interesting relic of Vikings history that I now have that is sitting in my past. It doesn't fit. It's a little too small. So I'm going to have to go on a diet so I can fit in my Josh Dobbs jersey. All of this is to say, I have defense for the game ball this week. And for the first time in Load the Box history, I'm giving an offensive player the defensive game ball. I am giving it to Josh Dobbs. I understand that Jefferson is back, but who is throwing Jefferson the damn ball? It's Josh Dobbs. The best defense is a good offense, and I think that instead of putting the defense back out there and begging them to get a stop at the end of the game, the best defense, a good offense. Josh Dobbs going to complete one, probably to Hawkinson if I'm being realistic, but let's say it's to JJ just for the show purpose. Going to complete one to JJ to just put it away and then line up in victory formation. First time it's ever been done. I won't do it again. Maybe once a season I'll pull that out from now on. I promise that's not going to be a normal thing. But come on, man. He had 4 picks and only 2.5 of them were his fault. We all abandoned ship and then we had a week to sit on it. It's Josh Dobbs' season, all right? Passed or not. He's back. He's all the way back. I'm here for it. And maybe it's just because, like I said, I spent $27 on a China jersey with Dobbs 15 on it. But is it the classic one or is it the standard? It is the standard one. I bought the Hawkinson classic jersey and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get another classic jersey. And then I was like, no. And now I'm especially glad I didn't do that because, my God, burn them. Put them in the fire.
Never again.
We don't play well in them. Honestly. And so you either need to play every game in them so that way you can tank and get the number 1 pick, or you need to never touch them again because both games that you've played in them have been massive disappointments. One thing, I'll give my final thoughts and then I'll let you take us home. Is that okay? I'll be very brief. I apologize. This is a long show. We haven't talked about the Vikings in a long time. We had a lot to get off of our chests. One thing I want to bring up that we didn't talk about in this entire show, we talked about Dobbs and his interceptions, Kevin O'Connell and his play calling, the return of Jefferson, right? We had a great show. We didn't bring up that the Vikings went on a pretty good streak of being positive in the turnover battle. Not overall on the season, but just in that win streak, they weren't turning the ball over. The defense was getting them 1 or 2 a game. They were at least breaking even. And in Denver, we fumbled a bunch. And then, obviously, in Chicago, Josh Dobbs had 4 interceptions. And the defense was only able to get 2 first fumbles instead of, a whopping 5 to get us positive. But I think that really is what is going to come down to saving the Vikings season is take care of the football, man. You can't have these stupid... It's one thing if you throw a deep ball and it gets jumped by a safety and it's an arm punt. You can't have these tipped interception, balls that hit you in the hands and fly up and then a DB comes up and catches it. You can't fumble for any reason. You cannot fumble. The Vikings are going to have to play really good football. Their playoff chances took a big hit this past weekend with just the way teams played and, Green Bay and Vegas and all these, not Vegas, Los Angeles, they all won. And the Vikings are going to have to win, 3 or 4 of these last 5 games, probably 4 or 5 to make it in. And it's going to be fun. I would rather be in this spot now than be in Carolina's spot now. I would rather be caring about football as we go into beginning of December than understanding that at this point it's just about draft positioning. So it's going to be a fun ride through this final month. We should be here every step of the way with you guys. Really glad to be back. And follow the show at LTB Vikings on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube and find us where you get your podcasts. You guys know what to do. You're great. You're wonderful. I'm sorry we abandoned you. And follow Will at Will Badloose and check out the Bad Loser blog. All right, Will, I'm done.
Yeah, click those subscribe buttons.
Smash them.
Very important. Smash them. Hit them hard. There was something that, I think needs to be mentioned here as well. I don't think Zoom is going to be one of our sponsors at any time soon. I think that ship has sailed. If we ever had a chance at Zoom being a sponsor, probably didn't, but just thought that
they actually reached out to signing us to a multi-million-dollar deal, and I turned them down on principle alone. I said, not this show.
So yeah, we could have had it made, but we prefer to grind. The thing that I will mention, which is very similar to what Jordan said, not only have the Vikings been turning it over again these last 2 weeks, 7 turnovers in 2 weeks, you can't win that way, but the Las Vegas Raiders have been turning people over the last 5 weeks. They have 9 takeaways in 5 games, and one of those included a 0 takeaway game against the Chiefs. So 4 of the last 5 games, you got 9 takeaways. That's a lot. Not as many as 7 in 2 games, but they've been doing a good job of taking the ball away, and it's been a problem that the Vikings have had all season. They already have more turnovers this season than they did all of last year, and there's still 5 games left. So it's got to be cleaned up again, and if it's not, we can just assume that the Vikings will not play in the postseason. I looked into this because Evan O'Connell the last couple of weeks has talked about, ever since I've been here, when we don't turn the ball over, or excuse me, when we either win or are tied in the turnover margin, we win a lot of games, is what he said. I went and looked. I was like, okay, that could just be coach speak. The Vikings are 16-0 in games under Kevin O'Connell when they are either even or better in the turnover margin. So simply just don't have more turnovers than the other team, and you're going to win. And so it's something where, I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe Mullins can, solve that problem, but he's got as many turnovers game-wise or per game-wise as Dobbs has in his career, so that's not really it's not like he's a sure-handed guy back there. So whoever's playing quarterback and whoever's catching the ball, running the ball, no more fumbles, no more of this, because if that continues to happen, it's all over. It's just the way it's going to be. You can't win games when you turn the ball over multiple times. Definitely not when you turn it over 3 or 4 times. So hang on to that thing, get out that punching stick again, and boxing mitts or whatever they were using. So it's another sort of strange, exciting time to be a Vikings fan. We will talk to you guys next week, hopefully after a Vikings victory. For Jordan and Will, this is Load the Box signing off. Skol, y'all.